I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the rightful owners of the land upon which we gather, the First Nations people of the Eastern Kulin Nation. My question is for Thomas. Is our society normalised and numb to seeing injustice inflicted upon people of colour? With the recent acquittal of Northern Territory Police Officer Zachary Rolfe over the death of Kumanjai Walker, what do you think would have happened if the accused was a man of colour and the victim white?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think this whole country has been, it's not about normalising, this whole country has been built on the injustices to First Nations people and has just been, that's what Australia is right now. A complete injustice to First Nations people that have had their land stolen, that have suffered from genocide, forced assimilation, all of these things. And I got a call from a sister in a community near Yuendumu, a Gurindji woman, just the other night, after the acquittal of Rolfe. And there's genuine fear in our communities, in our families, that the same will happen to our young people, you know, to our children. He should not have. I think the main thing here is that in the same week that Rolfe was acquitted, another First Nations man, another 19-year-old, was shot 6 times in Palmerston and tasered as well, and the police jumped all over him. And this is the sort of thing that we're seeing far too often. We've had over 500 deaths in custody now, over 500 deaths in custody, and not one of the families that have called for justice have received it. And I think it goes to the way that laws are made in this country, that the laws don't take into account the prejudice and the racism that we experience every day. The laws are made by mostly non-Indigenous men, mostly white men that have never experienced the racism that we experience. And it's one of the reasons why I think the Uluru Statement is so important. It calls for a First Nations voice enshrined in the Constitution. And until we start to say what happens in our communities, until we start to have the influence on the laws to make sure that this is taken into account, then we're not going to see justice. Just one more thing is that if they just listen to the Warlpiri people, the Warlpiri elders in their community that have said, we want a ceasefire. We don't want guns in our communities, and I don't think there would be a need for guns in our community.
Do you think this incident will actually lead to a real meaningful discussion about that, about how guns are used or not used and deployed by NT police? Yeah,
absolutely. It should be, the Warlpiri should be listened to, that the guns should be laid down, and they should listen to those communities about how justice can happen in our communities, how we can be cared for, you know, how we can heal. Because there would be no need for guns if we were treated with respect and if our lives really mattered.
Roxane Gay, are there lessons, anything we can pick up here from the US experience, from the Black Lives Matter movement as well?
Well, I think that in the United States we're in the exact same situation where Black lives absolutely do not matter and police brutality continues unchecked. I live in Los Angeles part-time, and the police there have a lot of impunity when it comes to shooting unarmed people and armed people. They just ignore due process, and they don't value Black life, and there are no consequences. And so, you know, there is very little light at the end of that particular tunnel until we see a shift in power and an acknowledgement that the current system where the police are really given military-like powers, you know, and are allowed to shoot people in the back, which means someone is running away. You know, until we address that and address the racism underlying all of it, we're not really going to solve the issue in any way.